AuthentiKit fans, thanks for joining me again. This is what we're building today. It's our second flight stick of 2025 for the Mustang P-51D. Actually, I should say P-51 as the experts in our Discord forum believe it's the same design used in the 51C as well as other variants of the P-51. On the subject of variants, we also plan to release a version of this stick for the P-40B, as shown here, and hopefully many other aircraft that have a similar gimbal base setup. Just like any AuthentiKit control, it plugs straight into your PC with one USB cable via the AuthentiKit Universal Hub. And with other flight sticks, it uses input H1, which connects via an Ethernet cable to your flight stick. And it works immediately in Microsoft Flight Simulator DCS X-Plane IL2 without any extra software. It also mounts to the standard quick release AuthentiKit flight stick mounting bracket like this. And if our mounting system is new to you, I'll show you more later in the video. However, as many of you are keen cockpit builders, this also has the option to mount flat to whatever base you may have already. This unit unscrews, just 4 screws here, and a flat mounting base option is available with the download, so you can screw this down to whatever you have as an existing base. Another super innovative feature of this amazing design, created by AuthentiKit community member Jari Kaskelin, is that you can customize the tension on the pitch and the roll by use of alternative springs. And would you believe, these springs are not made of steel. They are 3D printed. I have to confess my doubts when Jari first proposed this idea to me, but this stick has clocked up a great many hours with the beta testers, and the springs have proven to be more than up to the job. So there's the roll, there's the pitch, but each is replaceable by something stronger, weaker, whatever fits your taste. If you are new to AuthentiKit and you don't yet have a Universal Hub, then I recommend you first grab yourself an AuthentiKit starter kit. A starter kit is basically a bundle of the printed parts and the hardware parts to assemble one of these Universal Hubs. It connects to all of your AuthentiKit controls via Ethernet cable, and the hardware kit also includes the tools that you will need to assemble these controls. Not many, in fact. A PH2 screwdriver, a PH1 screwdriver, a red-blue magnet, wire stripper, a couple of other things. Now, AuthentiKit is a freeware community, and you can download all the 3D print files for the Universal Hub and everything for free. The description is in the links. However, you'll probably find it easier and cheaper to buy a ready-made hardware kit from our friends at SimKit Supplies. Again, there's a link in the description. Now, SimKit Supplies, or SKS, also sell a hardware kit for this flight stick, of course. So if you're starting out, just go to their site. You can order the hardware kits for the stick and the starter kit at the same time. He might even have a bundle at the moment. And I know a lot of you folks are in the US, so you'll be pleased to hear that SKS keeps stock in a warehouse in the US for local shipping or in-country shipping. Now, as I prepare this video, I'm afraid they don't currently have kits for this stick in the US yet, but stock is on the way, and it should be there in a couple of weeks. Now, if you're also in the market to purchase printed parts, either because you don't want to get into 3D printing or you'd simply rather have an experienced person print them for you, let me tell you about our CAPS option. A CAP is a community-approved printer, and CAPS is our community-approved printing scheme. Now, these are AuthentiKit community members who not only have experience printing these parts, but they have committed to adhering to the following guidelines and rules: low fixed mates rates pricing, a parts fit guarantee, and customer feedback and quality control. Now, if you'd like to read more about how CAPS works, there's a link in the description. The main thing you'll want to know, though, is the price for the printed parts for this stick. It's just £59 or $59 if you're in the US. Now, that's plus post and packing, but as we have CAPS in the USA, Europe, Australasia, and P&P ought to be reasonable. I say ought to be reasonable, it's between you and the caps how you do the shipping, but because you're buying directly from a community member. AuthentiKit does not make any money, and neither does SimKit Supplies, even though they have agreed to administer this scheme for us. So if you'd like to order this stick, there's a link on our download page. It takes you to the order form on the SKS website. SKS will identify the most suitable person to print for you, and they'll put you in touch with them. So don't forget to say on the form where you are in the world. Okay folks, this is where we get started. Here's the hardware. You've either self-sourced or bought it from SimKit Supplies. You've got printed parts, again self-printed or printed by a friend in our community. And we have assembly instructions, and I also have a wiring diagram here, and then there's another sheet I haven't printed out, but that lists all the parts with their names, and that's all in the download, all in the free download. And that is all you need for tools. A pair of scissors, a PH1 screwdriver bit, and a PH2 screwdriver bit. They're both in the starter kit, and the 3D print for the holder is also in the starter kit. Any old fine-tipped flat screwdriver, that's an ancient thing, don't know where that came from. A red-blue magnet, also in the starter kit. And you may find one of these useful, just a little task light, a little LED thing, just for kind of pointing at some of the small stuff. If your eyes are like mine, getting on a bit. Okay, that was the getting ready bit, which I just did. It actually suggests a wire stripper here. You won't need that for this build, but if you're also building the universal hub at the same time, then you will. I didn't mention red-blue magnet, but you'll have that from the starter kit. So let's get going properly. Now, my good friend Phil Shepherd, who wrote these instructions, has really raised the bar a bit here. You've got photos, which I haven't had so far in any documentation, and you've got these sort of major sections. The first one is the grip switch module, and then we move on a little later to the main grip. So let's start with the grip switch module. And something else I'm going to do, which I haven't done previously, so you don't need this for your build, but it might help you watching the video. And that is that we're going to be inserting quite a few magnets in this assembly, and sometimes I think people get a little confused. They kind of watch me sort of identify north and south and then do some little sleight of hand and pick it off, and then kind of get confused which was the north and which was the south. So I've had an idea. What I'm going to do is take all three magnets and I'm going to mark north and south first with this red pen. So red conventionally being north. So I'm going to mark north on all three. So the way I'm going to do it, I'll take the north holding out, I will let the magnet drop to it. So now the north, that's the north, so the south is on that side of the cube, so the north is on that side of the cube. So I'll put a little red dot and I'll do that 3 times. So there we go, 3 norths identified on 3 magnets. And we can see when we hold this grip switch module and compare it to the picture that you've got a couple of cavities there, and we want south being uppermost on those, and a cavity on there, and we want north being uppermost. So if I put my screwdriver underneath with the north on top and then I press it down, I know that the south is now on top. Now, we spent a lot of time during development trying to get the tightness right for the fit of this. And I've got to confess, I've put this together once and taken it apart. So some of the kind of tightener strip, which is kind of maybe not possible to see in there, but there's a little bit of a tightener, has pressed away. So you may find that it is quite a bit tighter than it appears in this assembly. Now, the other issue about tightness is that although these magnets are meant to be 5mm by 5 by 5, in practice they can be as small as 4.7, 4.8, and yeah, they're not usually bigger than 5, but they might be a little bit. Which means that if you were to press your 4.7mm magnet in here and then sort of give it a shake, it might drop out. So look, this is loose-ish. I'd kind of like it to be a little bit tighter actually, because once we've got a few magnets in here, things could start flying about. So I'm going to show you what you can do just to make it a little tighter, and that is just put a little strip of paper or something like that in there, and then let's do this right now, red at the bottom, and then press it in like that, and now that's a bit tighter. We don't really need to take those bits of paper off, but it looks a bit untidy, so I'll just kind of scrape them off like this. The other thing you'll find is if they're not in very tight, when I put the second one in, this first one might well pop out. So let's do the other one. So hold it up with the red on top. Now we know the red's going in. Now we know the red's going in. I would recommend putting your finger over the other one, or things will just start flying around. See how that goes in. Now that's a tighter fit. I'm not too worried about that falling out. Okay, that's two. Right, let's turn it over. This time we want the red on top. So let's put the screwdriver there and press the red in on top. Okay, is that falling out? No. No, that's moved. I'm going to make that a fraction tighter again. So I've got a tiny strip of paper there. It's a little bit tighter. North on top, south on top. That is step one. Okay, moving on to step two. We're going to be fitting these two flat tacked switches, and we need to arrange the legs before we start that. So just working through this, we've got the trigger button, that's going to be this one here, and then we've got the thumb button. So for the trigger button, flatten both legs on one side. Now by flatten both legs on one side, what that means is, see there's a little kink there, we just want to flatten that out so that later on we're going to slide a ferrule over it and that kink would impede us a little bit. So I think you can hopefully see that's got flattened out. Flatten on one side and bend them outwards at about 45 degrees, like that. I'm following a picture here, which is just off the camera, and then bend the others underneath, like this. Okay, so that's one done. Now we take the thumb button and we will flatten these legs here. Okay, that's flat enough. And these here. Okay, pretty good. And we've got one set of pins comes out like that, sort of flat-ish, and the other pair go up and high up. Okay, that's pretty good. So that's the other one. Okay, that's 2 and 3. Okay, number 4, piece of wire, piece of black wire, about 6 centimeters long, and we strip about 5mm, so stripping is just done with your fingernail from each end. Okay. Twist the strands together. This is going to be a common ground wire. Over each end we thread one of these ferrules. So if you haven't seen these before, these are these tiny little things, tiny little tubes. The easy way to work with these is to have them stood upright on a surface there. Press with your finger so they just kind of stick, and then thread them over like that. And if you just push it on, you should be able to just fold a little bit of the wire over the top so it won't fall off. Okay, so you can probably go slightly more than that. Maybe that's only 3mm. You may find slightly more is helpful, but too much can be a problem, because what you don't want is a stray strand sort of poking and sticking out and making contact with an adjacent stray strand, or it'll look like your fire button is continuously pressed. So okay, starting with the trigger button, that's the one that looks like this. We're going to be pushing one end of this black wire over the left leg, over the left 45-degree angled leg, and just slide that on. It should stay on like that. And the instructions say you may find it helpful to partially crush the ferrule. Let's see how we get on. Now we take our 60 centimeter piece of yellow wire and we take 5mm off there. Okay, I've gone slightly more than before. It'll probably be easier to work with. On it goes. Bend it over and thread that over the right hand leg. Okay, over it goes. Okay, that should broadly stay on. Okay, moving on to the trigger button. We're going to take the other end of this black wire and put it on the right hand side of the sticky up leg at the back. Okay, that looks to be on. Then it's a big 60 centimeter length of black wire, and we take 5mm off there, another ferrule, the right hand side of this 45-degree bent down wire, okay, 60 centimeters of green now, and another ferrule, and that goes over the left hand leg. So now we have something that looks like this, and if you want to check it, there's a picture in the instructions just to show how everything should be connected to everything. Okay, number 15, take the tack switch with the yellow and black and slide it into this slotted channel, the side which has got the two magnets upright. And it should just slide in like this, taking care not to lose any of these connections. Now, again, making sure that you don't lose the yellow end in there, take the loose end from the yellow and slide it in the hole underneath so that you can pull it through like this. Now, the instructions suggest guiding the other one through first, but personally I'd like to see these crushed flat at this point, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to crush this ferrule flat and make sure that nothing's moving. Okay, just give them gentle tugs just to make sure that they won't come away by themselves. There's a little bit of play there. Try and get the point of the screwdriver. Right, once that's secure, guide the black wire down and round and following the channel here. Okay, just going to have another press on this. I want that really secure. Yeah, I think we've got a good connection there. Another press on here as well. Good. And then we can press this tack switch down over the top of the other magnet. Okay, so that's popped out. I'm going to pop that back on again. Okay, I think the advice earlier to gently crush these was a good one. Okay, so I've popped the black back on there and I've got the tacked in place, and I can give this a really good crush. So that black feels pretty secure. I haven't lost the black from that side, and let's make sure these wires are tucked away inside the little channel. That's good, pretty tidy. Just a little bit sticking up there on that black. That's okay. That's staying in place, good. And now finally we crush these two, the black and the green. Yeah, they're not moving. That's good, that's great. And then we can finally take all three colours and pass them under this little bridge here. Pass them under there. Keep the order. Let's keep things tidy. Good. That's what we're looking for. Give everything a final check, and that's a nice milestone. Now we move on to the grip and these lovely red trigger and thumb buttons here. Again, we're using magnets, so step one, let's work out which is north, and the easy thing is hold the red north and the far side is north, so I'll do that for all three. Now we'll put two of those magnets into the trigger button, and again there's the option for the little bit of tightening. We'll see how we get on. It is south outwards, so north. Let's make sure that we've got the north there, and we want the south outwards, so we did it that way, it'd be north outwards, so let's do it the other way around. North on top, north going in the bottom. And that holds pretty well. Same again. north down, so if I put the north like that and press it down, okay, that goes in nice and firmly. That's that done. Next step, step 3, a tiny M2 self-tapping screw that goes in the hole here. And I'll show you how much to leave exposed. If you put it all the way in, it won't work. The idea of this is it just leaves, how much we got here? About, that screwdriver could easily go underneath it. That sort of amount, what's that, 1 or 2 mil. So leave it like that. We can adjust later if it doesn't work, but that should be about right. Okay, now the thumb button, number 4, insert the magnet so that the north is outermost. So if I put north on top, flat blade of the screwdriver there, north outermost, and press that in. Okay, that's lost. That was very tight, but I've taken it apart and put it back together. Now it's a little bit loose, and we'll have some trouble with that. So with the sliver of paper technique, if I put a piece of paper over there, I probably won't even need to break anything off if it's just the right length. So I press that down and press it in. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to leave those little bits exposed. I don't think there'll be a problem with that. North outermost, that's what it says. Now number 5. Now this is getting exciting, it's coming together here. Thread the yellow, black and green wires from the grip switch module through the trigger gap in the grip and out the base, so down here. Right, well I thought that would be a doddle, but it wasn't. Let's do them one at a time, might be easier. And just give it a little bit of a flick, yeah, until it sort of pops and comes good. Let's try again, flick and a twist as it goes down. There's a little ledge in here, that's what's happening, it's catching on that little ledge, so I just give that a little twist and a flick. Okay, so that's the grip switch module, and we're feeding these wires in, and then with a little rotation we want the 2 magnets outermost. Sits like that. There we go. Okay, some tiny things now. These are the grip trigger bushings, and they've got a little bit of a lip or a ledge on them. You can see this sort of slot like that, and there's a little bit of a step. So we put one in each side of the trigger at the top and give it a little twist with your thumb until they mesh and the steps kind of mesh with each other. Okay, so they're nicely meshed. The next thing is this grip trigger dowel. It's not round, it's square, and it will go into the bushings sort of slightly easier one way than another. It will go in it. I mean, I can twist it round, but it's just a little bit freer at one orientation. So rotate the dowel and the bushings so that that angle there as opposed to square like that. You should find it slightly easier that way. And then I'm going to just put those down for a second. I've been a little hasty here. We're going to just lift this switch module out because I need to drop the magnet with the thumb button in. That way around, just let it drop through. Like that. You can see it sticks out the top. And then I'll just pop this back in again. And you can already see the effect of the opposing magnets. That's lifting this switch up. So that's working already. So that's already a working button. Now then, back to this. Trying to maintain that orientation as before, not having the bushings drop out. Take the little leg from there, pop that down the bottom, put that up here. And then, as I said, the dowel is square, not round, and again it goes in at that sort of angle as opposed to that. You should find it goes in a bit more freely, and it should push all the way through. You might need to just wiggle the position of those bushes until you get the alignment. There we go, in it goes. Now this is a very small hole, and there aren't many things that will push it through, but there is a little printed item that comes with this, and it's a kind of a removal tool. Because if you now need to get that out, there aren't many things you can push it out with. I found this huge paper clip here, which has got it's probably 2mm, or a 2mm drill bit, that's probably good, which is just right for sort of pushing that in and also pushing it out again if you kind of got things wrong, maybe you got your magnets in wrong. But hopefully you won't need that, because the next thing you do is get an M3 roundhead screw, and we will just seal off one end so that that dowel doesn't drop out. And before I finally seal the other end off, we can check that we have our magnets correct. There's a nice resistance on that button there. You can feel the magnets opposing, and also we can hear, if you just listen, that's the click of the tack switch. If you don't hear that, it's probably because that tiny M2 screw wasn't protruding enough. It's bottoming out before the trigger button is depressing the tack switch, but that's great. So you've now got a nice little fire button there. You kind of push to torque at the top. Fantastic. So let's seal that off with the other M3 screw. And as I said, if you've got any of these magnets wrong, or we may also want to do a little testing before we assemble everything. So if you wanted to check that's all working before you put everything together, and it's a little harder to make changes up here, you can connect the black to pin 2 and the yellow and green to these aren't the numbers on the RJ45 socket, by the way, that's the sequence. So count it from the left. Second from the left, black. Fifth from the left, green. Sixth from the left, yellow. You can connect that up, and if you've built your universal hub already, then you'll be able to test straight away that buttons 1 and 2 are depressed when you fire these buttons here. And if you haven't built the universal hub now, you might want to go ahead and do that, but it's not actually too awful with this design if you do have a problem to sort of take these apart, slide the wires through later on, and make some changes up here. Okay, we're up to stage C of the assembly. This is the tube assembly, and there's 4 bits that you need here. That's the lower half of the tube, and that's the upper half of the tube. And as it says in the instructions, what you need to do first, there it is, these 2 pieces here, you can see that on mine there is not a little flap across the top. On here you can see that there is a little flap across the top. That's because I've already printed this and I've just torn that off. It just peels off. It's got a very thin connection here, and it's an anti-warping flap, so that when it prints like that it doesn't sort of warp away. So that just peels off very easily, so you need to do that first. So once you've done that, you take the 2 lower halves, which fit together into that beautifully shaped lower pole, and you screw them together with 3 of these 20mm M4 round head screws. So they go in like that. Okay, so there they are. Then we take this ring collar and we drop it over the top there. Okay, step 4, take the upper half. Now I'd recommend taking the half which has the screw holes on it, align that on the side which also has the screw holes on it, and just drop that in there. Okay, and then you can take the other half and just put it in like that, and it clicks in. It's a fabulous design. It's really strong already. That is superb engineering. And then we fasten the top half with 2 more of these M4 20mm round head screws. Okay, that is that's fantastic. That's the pole. Now we're on section D. So on a table, orient the parts as follows. So we'll have the screw holes up, the grip like this, and we're going to run the wires down these channels, and you can see that there's 2 holes here, which everything emerges at the bottom, and we will run, I propose running the black through one of them. And that should go quite smoothly. Let's just check it does. Yep, there it is. And then run the yellow and the green through the other one of these holes. Okay, I've found putting the yellow and the green with the 2 ends together, something kind of caught. But I've got the green through fine, so one is going through fine. But if I now hold the yellow and the green on the right here, and I pull it, that might just, it'll drag through method. Yeah, there we go. It's not a major catch, but just pushing the 2 together at once, something kind of caught in there. Anyway, so that is the, where's the black? Black slip back. Let's get the black through. Yeah, that's going through fine, no problems with the black. Okay, let's get back to this now. Let's pull these wires through, and then we mesh the diamond shape there, and that just goes on. Fantastic. That's really good. And now we have an M4 30mm screw which just goes in the back here, and as the instructions say, don't worry about catching anything, it's well away from the wires. Okay, good. Good and strong, good and strong. Okay, we're up to step E, the gimbal. Now that's the bit at the bottom that gives you the 2 dimensions of freedom of movement. And we've got a little intro here about the springs, which I talked about earlier, basically saying that normal PLA, not the fancy PLA or PLA Plus, seems to be a good material for making springs with. But let's skip down here. We already have assembled a switch module and so on. So we'll get on to this first step. Start with the top cradle and the tube assembly. So there is the top cradle. Quite distinct from the bottom half, so you shouldn't have any problems with that. And then slide the stick over it like this. Now, there's a square side to that shaft here, and then there is a different side with a kind of a tooth cut out. Take the square side and have that be the side that goes over, and it just goes over like that. Okay. Step 4 is to fit a magnet into that cavity. And we need to know north and south, so let's use this system here. In fact, I'll do the other one at the same time. North, north. And what's a little different this time is that I won't put the screwdriver with north under it. I will hold the screwdriver so that north is sticking upright like that, because we don't want the north in, down or up, we want the north across, and you want it across pointing towards that dimple, so that goes in like that. And now we can fit one of these really chunky 6003 magnets over that side, and that should just press on, should be kind of snug, and we can fit another one over the other side. And now you can see how they seat into the upper cradle, and we have a nice free movement, a free rotation going on there. Now take the cradle bridge, which is this tiny little piece like that, and it slides on like this. Now something's gone a little wrong, hasn't it, here? Yes, this magnet should not be pointed towards that open end. It should be, the magnet should be aligned with that little sort of cutout groove there, because that's where the sensor is going to be, that's going to be reading the magnet, or the other way around. Now, can I twist this without? Not really. I'm going to have to take one of these off, hopefully just one, because I think this thing flipped around when there was... there we go, and it should go around now. No, I'm going to take them both off. Oh well. Now's a good time to do it rather than later. Right, let's get this right. Rotate it round. There we go. So, bearing on again. Magnet to that side. Other bearing. There we go, that's better. Now we can put this little bridge item on with our 6mm countersunk screws. Okay, we're going to put that to one side now because we're going to work with the lower cradle, and that's this. Okay, step 9. It's time to grab one of these little hall sensors, and we're going to fit it inside this lower cradle, inside this D slot. It's not that obvious it's a D shape, but there is a right way and a wrong way around for this to go. A little picture in the instructions to show you that even though you can drop this thing in here the wrong way, yeah, that feels like the wrong way. I could probably push it in, but the right way, yeah, I've got the light on it now. The D is that way round, sort of the triangular bit uppermost. There it is, that goes in nice and smoothly. and it should go quite flush. Does it slightly recess? No, it goes pretty flush to the top there. And then we bend these legs. I'm going to use a screwdriver. I want to get the bend right at the hinge point rather than sort of a little bit higher up. So I want it to bend right from there, just to kind of reduce the chance of it sort of flopping around a bit. Okay, but not all the way into the channels just yet. Okay, let's wire them up now. Red, blue, white, 15 centimeters of each. I'm just going to strip off about that much. We don't want a lot of overlap here because these channels are really pretty close to each other, and we don't want anything sort of spilling over. So let's just get the ends ready. Too little, a bit more. A bit too much. There we go. That's about the right amount. Is that 4 mil or so? Yeah, there we go, that's good. And the order is red, blue, white from the left, RBW, always that order. Ferrules again. There we go, there's red. Slide it over. Run it across like that. And then I'm going to bend it, I'm going to crush it into the channel. So this is a little different to the usual mag hole setup. I'm not sure if we'll have too many of this design, but let's see how we go. Okay. In it goes. Okay, there's a little bit of a nip goes on there. Okay. There it is. Let's press that in. This is a bit easier. Maybe it's just me getting used to it, but that feels pretty good. Well inside the channel, and I'm just going to bend the legs a little bit more now. Well away from the previous one. Right, let's do the last one. Get it into the channel to start with, and then crush. Okay, how does that feel? Yeah, good. Good, good. Those are all in, nice and secure. Okay, number 12. Carefully route all 3 wires around the channel and through the slot below the cover hole. It's not very obvious, is it? But there's a slot down here. So they're going to go down there. So I'll start with the red. I'm not going to cross anything over here. Okay, let's just push that to the side. And the blue. This white looks like it'll be a little bit tighter. I think what I'll do is I'll just push these back a little bit, create some space, then it should be easier to get the white in. Okay, there it goes, it's starting to go. Give it a little help. That's got it. Right, and now I'll just pull them all through. I'll just push the white back a little bit so it can sit in that little recess at the back there. Yep, that looks good. And again, just checking that there aren't any strays, no little sort of stray strands which will cross over from one wire to another. And now we can take this tiny triangular cover, which goes over the top there, and with an M4 6mm, that's the smallest one, countersunk screw. Very good. Nice and tight there. Now 14, there are two pitch shafts. These little items here, which are going to be the shafts that the bearings for pitch are going to go onto. So there's two of those. One will contain a magnet, that one there, it's got a cavity for a magnet, and one is different with this horizontal groove in it. So taking the non-magnet one, we're going to press a 6003 bearing over that, and that goes on nice and firmly. The one for a magnet needs a magnet in it, and we've already identified the north. So again, the north is not going in or up, it is going across, pointing towards the circle, or the dimple, and that presses in quite firmly. There's a little tightener in there, that's not at any risk of falling out. And then we put the last of our bearings over there. Great. Okay, so now we're going to fit these two shafts to this lower cradle. So hold the cradle like that, wires up here, open side at the front, the one with the magnet on the right, the one without a magnet on the left. So you see some slots here. Let's put the magnet one in first. There's a roundy end to it. Put the roundy end to the back. Like that. Yeah, it goes in very easily actually, so that's in like that. And then this one goes in on the left, and it's the long side downwards, the longer edge downwards, so it goes in like that. So there they are. Should be equal height now. Yep. So those are in. Okay, time to talk about springs again. These are the 4 springs that you've printed, and if you turn them on the side you can see that they get stronger at that end, weaker at that end. I'm going to pick the middle two. I'm going to use that stronger one for pitch and that next strongest one for roll, and we'll put these to one side, and then later on if we find that we want to do more or less on either of these we can switch to those. It's not too difficult. So actually it's roll that I'm fitting here, so I'm going to go for the weaker of these two. So on it goes. Keep the upper side of the cradle away. We're aligning that groove with that line there. This T shape at the bottom is underneath. We press it on. It doesn't go flush. Have a look here, you see a gap between the bearing and the bottom of the spring. It doesn't go flush, that's normal. But we can now get a 30mm countersunk screw in here and just start to get some tightness on that. But don't tighten it all the way. We need a little bit of play in it so that we can slot things together. So there's a little bit of play still. And now I can press, if you can see here, that as I press the cradle over the spring and over the bearings, you can see that there we go, these 2 points join up. Same over there, and this little T bit here, there, that's kind of dropped in and that's kind of holding things. Okay, good, that's what we want. Now we can assemble the 2 halves of the cradle, so the green, yellow and black. Let's get those wires popped through here. Let's orientate this so that the cradles join like this. Oh, look at that. Doesn't that go together beautifully? So nothing is catching, and we can get 4 M4 30mm countersunk screws in. And now we can tighten up the roll spring, that 30mm countersunk screw, and see how it feels. That's pretty good. Pretty good. It should be centered, aligned there. The neutral should be centered. It is. I'm going to go with it. You know, you have the option now, if you think I'd like more strength, take out the screw, unfasten it there, loosen the 4 bolts here so you can pull the cradle apart a bit and lift that screw out and step it up a level. So, you know, you could maybe go with that next one up and then use that very strongest one for the pitch. But I'm happy with that for now. So now it's time to take our second hole sensor, and we're going to do exactly as we did before. There is a little D slot for the D shape of the hole, and we push that through, make sure it goes in easily and it isn't jammed in the opposite way around. Bend the legs over, and I'm just going to wire that up same way as you saw me do it before. The only difference is that we're not using red, blue, white. We're using the alternate configuration, the alternate standard configuration, which is red, black, green. And the lengths are slightly shorter, 10 centimeters. So I'm going to do that right now. There we go, red, black, green, no stray strands, everything looking good. Then we take the 3 wires and we pop them through that little slot underneath. A little bit of help needed on that last one. It's all very snug in there. Very nice. Nice and tidy. Okay, we've got another one of these covers which goes over the top like that, and another M4 6mm countersunk. Okay, looking good. Looking good. Okay, now we're bringing it together. We've got the gimbal base, we've got the stick. As the instructions say, orientate for the largest gap, but I find it helpful to think that that magnet is going to be read by that sensor, so it's this way round that it's got to go. And we're going to be running these wires through the hole in the base. I should say the holes, plural, because we're putting the yellow, black, green. We're basically putting the middle ones through the middle hole, and then the red, blue, white through that little triangular hole which you can see there. Okay, that's one set done. So I'm going to avoid twisting here. I think that would be for the best. You can see that the white comes out on the right here, so let's keep it to the right as it goes through the triangular hole. Then the blue's next to it. Not too bothered about order on the middle one, but on this one here I think it's probably best to minimize twisting. And then we can put the red next to it. Okay, red, blue, white, and those, and let's pull everything together. Again, making sure that the magnet is going to be read by that sensor, so on it goes. There aren't many pieces left. We've got these two. That's the cover, which is going to go over this pitch bearing. So that slides on like that, and you can see that little sort of cutout there that fits the alignment for the sensor cover. So that's going to go on, and that's going to start holding things together. We've got another pair of these 30mm, so let's get those in now. Okay, that's in very nicely. And now it's the pitch spring, and you can see very clearly here where that T is that meshes. So let's get that T meshed up here. And oh, there we go. That's more like it. So let's see how things look with that spring once it's properly seated. You heard it click then. That little lug there, that's over the side. You sort of get a look at how that is there. So let's get a 30mm on that, and that can go all the way in from the looks of things. We can tighten that fully. It's properly seated. That's it's kind of doing the job already, isn't it? We just have this final piece which goes like this. Does it go like that? Yes. There we go. Everything fits together very nicely, and that's 2 more of our 30mm. In fact, it's our last 30mm countersunks. So in they go. Okay, step 32 is just about making sure the slack is through here. What is recommended is you pull everything through and then give the stick some travel to make sure that there is enough slack the other side of the hole that nothing pulls and drags. So I think that's going to be fine. And 33, we get another chance to check the spring tensions. So that was pitch, wasn't it? So that was pitch. Yes, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'm going to keep it with that. But of course you could upgrade it to the next one up. Okay, the next few steps are the last little bit of wire preparation before we connect up these wires to the RJ45 socket. And you can see, hopefully you can see here, that there are two holes, screw holes here, marked B and A. And we're going to be fitting these flange screws, these M3 screws, into those. And they're going to be making a joint between the red wires and the black wires, so that we have a single red and a single black which goes into the socket. So the first thing we'll do is we've got a couple of 8cm pieces of wire which will provide the common ground and the common red, and we're going to strip off a good amount of, there we go, that sort of amount. What's that? Almost an inch from one side, and just a little bit from the other side, because that's what's going to go into the RJ45. Same on the other. Always giving these a twist, particularly that short piece there that's going to go into the RJ45. We don't want stray strands. And equally, we need to strip off a decent amount from the reds and the blacks on here. Actually, it's not the blacks, is it? We have the black and we have the blue. Okay, those are the wires prepared. Okay, I've jumped the gun a little bit on the instructions, but step 35 is that we take the two reds, which we've had the 2 centimeters or so stripped off, and the common red, twist those together, and those are going to be held down under one of the posts. And step 36 concludes with twisting 4 wires together, so that's the common short black and the 2 blacks and the blue. Step 37, partially screw in these 2 flange M3 screws into the B and A slots. In 38, we make a small crook shape using the screwdriver, because we're going to be fitting that around the M3 screw. And the idea is we're going to tighten the crook as we tighten the screw. And then in step 39, we're going to loop that common ground around post A and tighten it up. And then we fit the common red around post B and we tighten that up. So it should look like that when we're done. And now it's drum roll time, because it's the final step. We're going to be wiring up the RJ45 to the 6 wires that we're using here. I've already prepared some of the wires. We've got about 2 mil. Oh, there's a little bit of fray there. Let's get that tight. Got about 2-3 mil stripped off from the red and the black. We need to do the same for the other colors, so I'll just do that now. And as per the wiring diagram, it's red into the left hand. Remember, these are not the numbers. There are numbers, but they're not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are typically 1, 2, 5, 4, 8, 7, 3, 6, but they vary. It kind of comes down to the kind of manufacture and the internal wiring of these devices. And if you haven't seen this before, I'll show you how it works. You hold the little bit of strip wire over the tooth inside the channel, so starting with the left, and then you click down with that lid, and it should press the tooth, and it should press the wire over the... I don't think that was good enough. Let's do that again. In fact, really, if you want the insulation just short of the tooth, and now that feels better. Okay, so that's the red in, and do the black. Don't be tempted to strip larger lengths of wire, because it's very easy to end up with a stray strand which would cross over and touch an adjacent channel. You can kind of see here that you can see the tooth in the channel, but have a look. If I tilt it to the side, have a look, you can see a little bit of the tooth coming through the wall between them. So if you've got lots of stray strands splaying about, you can end up with the wire from one touching an adjacent channel. And you can try the trick that you don't strip the wire and you just put it in and rely on the fact that the wire is crushed through and contact is made, but there are complications with that too. You may find that the contact isn't made. You may find that the wire, which you think comes to the very end, because you've been pulling and dragging it, actually falls short, and there isn't any wire underneath the insulation at the point you crush this. So on balance, I prefer this. Right, so that's the red, common black, that's easy. Now there's 2 greens, let's get the right green. It's the pitch mag hole green, so that's the one coming from here, as opposed to the one which comes from the center hole and comes down from the fire button. So the little green one, let's get that in next and get that nicely stripped back. Okay, then the white one from the roll. There's only one white, that's easy. Then the other green. And yellow. Looks good. Okay, and it goes. Now it should just press in. You've got the springy bit underneath as you do this. It'll pop out there and you should, there you go, and that should be rock solid. Okay, now I think I just said that that was the final step, wasn't it? Not quite, because we have a base here with a lot of wires sticking out and no mounting system. So let's fit the mounting system. Here it is. This is the mounting system for the standard AuthentiKit mounting arrangement. I'm going to say a little bit more about that after this. This is the build part, and then I'll talk about mounting. However, if you have, this will mount flat, as you can see, and if you are making your own base, perhaps a sort of a block of wood, a kind of pedestal, there is an alternative to this, and I'll just pop that on the screen at the moment, where you fit a base, a flat base to that, and then you can have 4 screw holes and fix it down with wood screws or whatever. So that's an option, but I'm going to show you the standard mounting system for a quick release desk mounting AuthentiKit configuration. Right, so let's get on with that. Let's get the orientation right. So that's us going forward, isn't it? Which means that is behind us and this is in front of us. So yeah, so the AuthentiKit is on the side of the spring and not on the side of the RJ45. And we're going to be using 4 of these M4 roundhead 12mm screws. Okay, so before I fit this on, I'm going to really struggle not to trap wires here if I don't get them tidied up first. So fortunately there are these channels down the side here where the screw heads go, and I've just been tucking these wires, these extra loops that were sticking around a bit, down there, and making sure that nothing is going to be outside of that little cavity area when I press this on. And I seem to have done that. A quick check on pitch, roll's not an issue, and I'm not having any trouble there about not having the travel and dragging any wires. That looks good. So I should be able to just put that on, and remember, AuthentiKit towards the spring, and that fits on flush. So I can just screw that down now with these M4 round heads. Okay, that's looking good. And then the final step, this is the quick release dovetail. So the way it goes is this, the open end to the bottom, because it's going to slide on. I'll just show you what it slides onto. I'll come back to this in a second, but it slides onto this quick release plate, like that, which is going to be held at that angle. So let's just fit that like that, and we should now have 4 M4 10mm countersunk screws. Forgetting something, there's one more thing we need to do. And that is, yes, that will go like that, and that is the basic quick release plate. We've had that for a few years now. However, some sticks, and this is going in that direction, have quite a strong resistance. The return forces on pitch, and I haven't used the strongest spring here, and who knows, if you print this in carbon fiber or something and you get a really strong return force, then you'll find that the quick release plate, when it's attached to here, can just kind of like give, it'll move, it'll kind of click a little bit, and that's why we've made an improved version of it where we can optionally bolt that plate from underneath to add extra security to it. And to make that bolt through really strong, we don't just screw into plastic this time, we screw into these metal nuts. So we're going to fit these, and before we fit them we have to just clear this cavity. There's a little, you see there, a little bit of filament has been printed over the top, and you just need to clear that with a Phillips screwdriver, and then you can put these nuts in there. Now, depending on your print tolerances, those nuts may go in very easily, but they should be just a little bit proud because the cavities are designed with a taper to them. They get tighter. And the best thing to do is to grab one of the remaining M4 screws, put it through here, and you can just see that we will drag the nut through until it should be flush. There we go, nice and flush. So let's just do that on these 3 screws. These 3 nuts, I should say. Okay, that's done, nice and flush. Now we can fit this, and again remember that end, closed end up at the top with these 10mm countersunks. So let's get those in. So there it is, a replica P-51 flight stick. What a beauty, and what an elegant design. Now if you already have the universal hub like this, you're good to go. Just plug it in, RJ45 socket into H1 stick, and you're away. We will need to calibrate though, so let's do that quickly now. The sequence is always that before we plug the universal hub into the PC, we connect the Ethernet to the control, and then we connect that control to the universal hub. And now I can plug the USB into the PC, and there we go. We have AuthentiKit recognized, so I'm looking in joystick, joy.cpl or game controllers, and then if I hit properties on AuthentiKit, and we should be able to see that we have lovely movement. Let's just check to the right, yes, to the left, and forward and back, so that's great. So all we need to do is calibrate. So I'll just set that central for now. We hit settings, calibrate, next, next. I like to display raw data, and now we just need to go full travel left, full travel right. I'm moving between an X range of 3226, which is great, and 850, so lots of data there, lots of digital data, and 713 or so, and 3500. That's great. I'm just going to hold it like that now, dead neutral. I hit next, and next again, and finish, and we are done. And now we should have lovely full travel left and right, and forward and back. Excellent. Hit apply. Okay, that's calibration complete. I showed you briefly a few moments ago how the stick mounts to a quick release plate, but if you're new to this, you may not be clear how it fixes to your desk. Well, here's that snippet again from a recent Spitfire video, which shows how we use a strong, sturdy monitor stand mounted upside down as our base for fixing most controls. I'll include a link in the description to this full video and another video which more specifically explains the mounting system. I also want to explain a little more how we connect the stick mount to the monitor stand. This is the stick mount I showed you earlier. It attaches in place of the usual Visa mount for your monitor, which goes on the end of a monitor arm. So you can unscrew this and fit this in. Now you may find that the monitor arms that come with the mount that you buy are a little too short to, if you can see on the video, go kind of around your leg a bit. So instead of that version, you may choose to print one of these extended arms, which just give you a little bit more room for maneuver. One more point about the monitor that's kind of more for you folks in the US. This arm and the mount is of a particular design, and notably the cross sections of these arms are 30mm by 30mm. Now it's a common design, it's easy to find in the UK and Europe, and it used to be easy to find in the US, but folks have been struggling recently. So in the last few weeks, I've developed an alternative set of AuthentiKit stick mounts for a design that is commonly available in the US. And this one has arm sections which are still 30 deep, but only 20 wide. And again, the stick mounts to the final section in place of a Visa bracket. The one that I've designed is long by default because often you only get 2 arms and they're not quite enough to give you that travel around your leg. So it would fit in like that, and you can bend that round fairly well. Now, although this 20 by 30 format's a bit weaker than the 30 by 30, one advantage is that this design often comes as an LCD monitor stand like this with dual arms. The lower one you can use for your flight stick, and the upper one for your other Mustang controls. Other Mustang controls, you say? Well, yes. How about this amazing P-51 throttle? RPM, throttle, and we even have working twist gun sight. What a beauty, hey? Or how about that? The P-51 pedestal. We've got landing gear, elevator trim, we've got aileron trim, we've got rudder trim, we've got working flaps. What an amazing piece of kit. All available from our website, free downloads as usual. Well, that's all for now, folks. If you're new to this, I ought to give you a health warning, really. AuthentiKit is addictive because you're going to want the rest of the inputs to this hub. We've only filled in the stick here. I've shown you the throttle, and that goes into the throttle input, and also that gun sight goes into H8 here. And the pedestal will use the trim, the rudder bias, the flaps, and the gear. That's pretty comprehensive, isn't it? But if you want more, don't worry, because we do have more in the works. How about this P-51 very cool fuel selector? The design I'm working on has this mounting very nicely at the back of the stick. So why not subscribe to make sure you catch the release of that? Until then, happy flying. Bye for now, folks.